Welcome back to the Truth Factory. Why is the United States more politically divided than ever? When did the idea of making America great again become a bad thing? Why do people on the left now see a patriotic hat as a hate crime or a hat crime? What has influenced the public into thinking that it's suddenly okay to physically assault others simply because of their political alignment?
When I see the Make America Great Again hat now, Chris, I am triggered. I'm so triggered.
Every person is afraid of that hat. I'm afraid of that hat.
Dude, like, we're friends and I level with you, but like, you gotta take the hat off.
Get your hat because you threw your hat.
You took my hat right off my
president. You ain't support.
You stole my property, my Make America Great Again hat.
Look at the kind of he's wearing.
During the Women's March, InfoWars' Owen Schroyer was sexually assaulted by this woman on camera.
She just grabbed my dick. Is that sexual assault? Is that sexual assault?
Yes.
So you just sexually assaulted me?
I did assault
So
you.
did you be arrested?
Arrest me.
Now, this woman is marching for gender equality and most likely believes that a woman wearing a miniskirt is not an invitation for sexual assault, but still through cognitive dissonance felt like Owen wearing a mega hat gave her the right to touch his genitals without his consent.
So look at this. Women have so much privilege, she can sexually assault me and get away with it. If I did that to her, I'd get arrested.
I just told you, if you want to go ahead, there are police right here.
She has since been arrested for this, which ironically is a great example of the gender equality that she was marching for. But what made this woman feel so emboldened to think that someone wearing a mega hat deserves to be treated in this manner? Well, turn on the TV. There's a disproportionate amount of anti-Trump rhetoric every day coming out of Hollywood and the legacy media that dehumanizes and vilifies Trump and his supporters.
Maybe that hat means the Central Park Five to people. Maybe it means, Mexicans are rapists to people.
The viral video sweeping the internet of a mob of MAGA hat-wearing high school students surrounding a Native American chanting and drumming in the nation's capital.
It is disturbing.
Students mocking a Native American man.
Some of them harassing and jeering at a Native American elder.
Even putting them on public trial for smirking like a modern-day witch hunt.
That kid had a smug look on his face.
I blame that f***ing kid. What a little prick. Smirk face.
Back in the Middle Ages, when actual witch hunts took place, the illiterate, unwashed masses were often manipulated by power-hungry churches that would manipulate their scripture in order to control the people. Since commoners couldn't read and most of the Bibles were in Latin anyway, they had to take the priest's interpretation of the Bible as actual gospel, and questioning it would make you a heretic. The church knew that superstitious and fearful people prayed more fervently and donated to the church more faithfully. And while the church never officially endorsed witch trials, you could easily argue that they were responsible at the time for the superstitious fear-mongering that caused them. Tens of thousands of accused witches and their innocent house cats were killed by fearful peasants in these trials.
What makes you think she's a witch? Well, she turned me into a newt. A newt. Got better.
Now, obviously, there's a big difference between a religion itself and a religious institution, which is only as moral as the people who run it. The same can be said about the media, which is only a bad thing if it's run by immoral people. Today, the mainstream media, in some ways, has become like those medieval churches, in that they have the power to manipulate the masses by taking information, interpreting it to fit an agenda, and then regurgitating those opinions as facts to the masses in order to gain power and money. The media, including social media, are acting as moral arbiters, controlling information and using propaganda tactics to manipulate people's emotions, until feelings seem more important than actual facts. And anyone who disagrees with the mainstream narrative is treated like a heretic and is excommunicated by being banned off of Twitter and Facebook. I mean, you can get banned off of Twitter at this point just for telling unemployed left-wing journalists to learn to code. I guess they can't handle the irony of people using the same response they did 4 years ago when blue-collar workers were losing their jobs. These journalists act like a priesthood, and heaven forbid that anyone holds up a mirror to them so they can reflect on their own actions and how the public perceives them. Their bias against Trump and the right at this point is just open knowledge. There's almost no way that the left would be so triggered by a red hat if the press treated Trump the way that they treated Obama. When Obama talked about building large border fences and trying to stop illegal immigration, no one called him racist.
We all agree on the need to better secure the border. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
But when Trump says the same things, the media pushes the notion that he is literally Hitler.
This Make America Great Again hat is just as maddening and frustrating and triggering for me to look at as a KKK hood.
This causes CNN loyalists to believe that anyone wearing this hat must therefore be a Nazi, even Kanye West. Now, when Trump messes up, he should be criticized for that in the media like everyone else. But we're long past the point where him just eating ice cream is a front page story.
At the dessert course, he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with his chocolate cream pie.
Of course, there are conspiracy theories that suggest that the media has nefarious ties to the deep state and the CIA, like Project Mockingbird, and that their push to attack Trump and divide the nation politically is a part of a larger agenda. I have no doubt that these large media companies do have connections on the inside of the government, as that's the only way to explain how CNN just randomly happened to be outside of Roger Stone's house in the middle of the night with all their camera equipment when he was arrested.
This is exclusive CNN video. This is what happened this morning before sunrise, just before 6 a.m., when Roger Stone, longtime Trump associate and advisor, was taken into custody by the FBI.
Someone on the inside tipped off CNN because they wanted this over-the-top action movie arrest to be caught on camera to paint Stone in the eyes of the public as a dangerous criminal.
Are you familiar from public reports or otherwise that a CNN reporter was camped out outside of Stone's house when the FBI arrested him? This wouldn't be part of the investigation.
I am aware of that, and it was deeply concerning to me as to how CNN found out about that. I share your concern with the possibility that a media outlet was tipped off to Mr. Stone's either indictment or arrest before that information was available to the public.
But I believe that the main reason that the mainstream media is so slanted and politically divisive is simply because it's an effective tool to make money. Truth and integrity have taken a backseat to the almighty dollar, as media companies know that people are more likely to read a negative news article than a positive one. By presenting the most offensive and absurd things as truth, it makes us pay attention, if only briefly, to their dumb reporting before they're forced to retract their statements as nonsense. But that type of clickbait works, which is why they do it.
Look, but if they hate him, why do they listen? Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next.
Media executives have been caught on hidden camera by Project Veritas, admitting that Trump has dramatically helped boost profits and ratings.
Then why is CNN constantly Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because it's ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now.
The more that the media pushes Trump as the enemy, the more likely people will be to believe that, and read gotcha hit pieces about them to feed their Trump hate obsession and to confirm their bias, all while making those media organizations tons of money whether the stories are true or not. It's okay to have a political bias or angle as long as you're being honest about it and you're not pushing an agenda. But now there's a whole generation of NPCs who have grown up to believe that the opinions of these people are undeniable facts. And while the media doesn't directly endorse or incite violence and unacceptable behavior towards Trump and his supporters, their hate-mongering has dehumanized anyone wearing this hat to the point where the far left feels morally justified to attack them for that reason alone. And besides a few fringe media and news outlets, the left-wing legacy media has almost complete control over information. They like to portray Trump supporters as a small fringe group, and because there is so little representation of Republicans in Hollywood and the media, many people on the left who live in an echo chamber just believe this. However, Trump is president because that simply isn't the case. The media is ignoring almost half of the country, and their influence was not strong enough to swing the election, and this hat reminds them of that. It triggers them because it promotes unity, patriotism, and is a middle finger to their agenda, which is why they're constantly pushing stories that associate it and the MAGA movement with bigotry, whether that's true or not. They're currently pushing a story about a black gay D-list celebrity named Jussie Smollett, who allegedly fought back against a lynch mob of white supremacists who recognized him from his TV show Empire and yelled, "This is MAGA country," while putting a noose around his neck at 2 a.m. during a polar vortex in Chicago. Even though Chicago is certainly not MAGA country and no one would ever say that. And do you really think that white supremacists would know what Empire is or who Jussie Smollett is? The police have went through hundreds of hours of surveillance footage and cannot find any evidence of this attack. At the time of this alleged attack, Jussie apparently had a cell phone in one hand and a Subway sandwich in the other, and he claims that he fought back. So did he fight back with his sandwich hand? Beat fresh every day! Yeah, this seems like a weird marketing scheme from Subway, which is still somehow a step up from this. Oh, and from Jussie's tweets, it's clear that he just happens to despise Trump. Unless more evidence or footage comes forward, I'm calling this a publicity hoax. Yet there are tons of instances of people wearing MAGA hats getting refused service.
Greg Piatek was even asked to leave the bar after he told bartenders his support for President Trump was not a joke.
And also developing tonight, caught on camera, conservative students at Fordham University here in New York say that they were kicked out of a campus coffee house because of thought discrimination and a dislike for their hats.
They told me to take my hat off because it brings negative emotions to the other children who don't like them.
Being verbally abused.
You want to build a wall? You want to build a...
The video shows classmates shoving the 12-year-old St. Louis boy while yelling at him for supporting the president.
Being physically assaulted.
A white teenager with special needs tied up and beaten as a group of young African Americans shouting anti-white slurs and calling out Donald Trump.
And even sexually assaulted on camera.
He just grabbed my dick. Is that sexual assault? Is that sexual assault?
Yes.
And the media just acts all bird box about this. But a story without any real evidence that fits the media's anti-Trump agenda, well, just like the original Covington school narrative, that has to be front page news. The truth doesn't actually matter. The goal of these stories is just to make it politically incorrect to support the president. Even if you're just standing there smiling, you can have your life ruined, witch hunted, by the media for wearing a hat.
Keep America great. For so many people, that's racism.
Yeah, but that's because of the mainstream media's narrative that's painted Donald Trump as a racist. I don't agree with the narrative. I'm out here to try to share that that narrative is skewed.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting me, and have a great night. Meow.